get started with our IndyCar Grand Prix post-race press conference, joined now by Scott Dixon, driver of the number 9 PNC Bank Honda for Chip Ganassi Racing, finishing second in today's race. Scott, I know ultimately you led a lot of laps and we're hoping for that top spot on the podium, but a great effort for the team overall. Take us through your race.
Yeah, it was generally a pretty good day. We had some good pace. The start was a little tricky, kind of misjudged it with Felix, and actually the 60 car had a great start. So kind of just followed in line there and was just seeing how it's going to play out. The restart, we had that really good jump there, got both the 60 and the 10, kind of set our sail. The conditions were really tricky all day, but a lot of fun actually. I think it's always hard to tell with a circle like this, especially after the kind of sealant they've put on some of the portions of the oval. How tough it's going to be once you start to get some moisture on there. But all in all, the Firestone red tyres never got to the blacks. Had a ton of grip and it was a lot of fun. So the second or third stint I think there where we ran our double set of run reds, kind of fell off a bit of a cliff with those, and then once we got to our sticker set we kind of set sail again. But yeah, in the rain I knew with about 10 laps to go I'm like we're going to get hosed here. The front tyres we just didn't have, I don't know if we changed the front wing or whatever we did in that pit stop. But we just had no front grip and had to stop the car too much to really keep time. And we were hoping, we were talking a lot about whether it was going to be a time race or it was going to run the full distance. And obviously with the full distance, a lap too short, it would have helped a lot. But congrats to Pagenaud. It's great to see him back in Victory Circle, and they did a fantastic job today and had great speed at the end of the race. So yeah, bummer leading that many laps and come out second.
So with the changing weather conditions and also the changing track surfaces between most of the road course but then also the sealant on the oval, how tricky was this race compared to some of the other IndyCar Grand Prix we've seen so far?
Yeah, I think we had kind of around the right amount of moisture, to be honest. I think we were at the end of the last stint there, we were probably hoping that it rained a lot harder just for being selfish for ourselves to help the front tyres. But yeah, I think this track actually doesn't puddle, which is fantastic, and a lot of the street circuits that we go to, that's kind of one of our biggest concerns once we get aquaplaning and it becomes a limiting factor. But I think today, definitely the people that came out saw the conditions that we can race in and how fun it can be to watch if you stick through it. But yeah, it's always hard. I think Bordeaux, when we tested here at the Honda Manufacture Day, had mentioned how slick the new portion of the track was, but to be honest, the grip was very high, even with a lot of rain that we had, and running the slick tires. I was kind of surprised how quick the cars still were. So it's tough to judge, but all in all, it was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Questions for Scott? Yes, Wolfgang.
Scott, you said you had no front grip. Was this the main reason you could not hold off Simon?
Yeah, I just couldn't turn. Even in the first gear corners, I was almost having to stop the car to get it to rotate. I think it felt like I needed probably another 4 or 5 turns of front wing. It was just sometimes it kind of goes like that, depending on how your mechanical balance is, and a lot of the cars I think are very different. Some may have switched to a semi wet setup. I think for predictions going later on into the race, but yeah, we just. Whatever the balance was, man, we just couldn't get the car to turn. It had fantastic traction, but as you saw on all the slow speed corners, I just couldn't turn the car.
Talking to Chris Simmons, he thought that he was confident that the gap was big enough that you might be able to hold him off. Did you feel that way in the cockpit, or did you just feel it was a matter of time?
I think you always doubt it. So I think from, as I said, with 10 laps to go, I think, I knew I was kind of in trouble. And then the gap actually started to get, a bit bigger. I think, Harvey was having a similar issue with his, balance and struggling, and that was kind of holding Pagenaud back. But, they were giving me lap times, and you could see that, the 22 just had some pretty immense pace. So once I knew he got some clear track, and it really only took, once he got past Harvey, I think 2 laps before he was on top of us. So in a situation like that, we had it in the second stint or third stint on reds too, where you start to fall off and it falls off really fast here. It's a momentum track, and it comes fast. So I knew pretty early that we were going to be struggling.
Mary?
Scott, you had quite a lead, number of second lead, maybe as much as 6 or so with Simon after he passed Harvey. You had a lot more push to pass than he did. So even though you had that, I think Simon was out with maybe 3-4 laps to go at least, and yet he was catching you. So is it that you couldn't really use your push to pass to advantage because of the front wing grip issue?
No, I was, but again, the slow speed corners is where all the speed is, right? When you're doing a 40-mile-an-hour corner, and if he's rolling 5 miles an hour faster, the time gets chewed up really fast. It's 5 miles an hour when you're doing 160 on the straights, nowhere near the same amount. So I was trying to use it sporadically in spots to try and lessen the pain, but you knew it was coming. So it was one of those scenarios where you're either hoping for a yellow or it was going to be a timed race and come up short by a couple laps.
Well, it was certainly exciting, and with Simon, were you surprised how racy he was you're both on the black tires? Do you think there was a difference in the engine performance at all that came into effect? Because, even if you used the push to pass, he seemed to be right there.
The way it's set up, I think we had a pretty big advantage on the slick tires, over the 22 for sure. The stint we got caught was when we ran the double run reds. We started with 9 laps on those. So, once we got to those sticker reds and that portion run before it rained, we kind of stretched out pretty easily and didn't really have to push. But when it comes to the rain, you're kind of in the window or you're not. And they were, it could be a multitude of different setup options that make that possible. Ultimately, it just didn't play out.
Yes, Bruce.
Other than the momentum that is involved, this race doesn't translate to the next race much at all. In fact, it's the same facility. How much does this race translate into the next road course race in Detroit? Oftentimes, that's a ring race too.
Yeah, not so much really. It's totally different. It's very low grip. It's a street course. Your ride heights are probably double what you run here. So it's I think in the IndyCar series right now, you need to be good in all areas and try and maximize on it. Which I think we've done a pretty good job this year. I think we're the only car actually to be in the 5.7, 5.6 every race. But days like this are the days you need to capitalize and try and get the win, and we didn't. So it's nice to have the performance and nice to run fast, but we're here to win. And with our team, if we don't win, then it sucks. But we'll use this as motivation, and hopefully performance-wise we're strong in the next couple of weeks and can have a good shot at the 500.
Any other questions for Scott? Yes, sir.
Scott, this is your 3rd straight runner-up in this race. The last 2 was kind of one of those typical Penske dominant performance. This one, Simon only led 5 laps. Is this kind of one of those that's just tough to chew on, that one that kind of got away?
I've been part of many of these, so it's you got to take them. There's days where you get a win and you never really knew it was coming. So you got to take the highs with the lows. But I think still finishing second and having a fairly dominant day, something to be proud of. But yeah, again, these wins are harder and harder to get. So you can see even the expression with Simon, after getting that victory, it's hard to get them here right now, and it's good to see him back in victory lane. But yeah, it's I don't know, you just roll with it, man. You kind of fall on both sides, and if you keep knocking on the door, eventually it's gonna open.
Scott, you mentioned how what the fans saw today, they should have had some fun with what they witnessed. The last 4 races prior to today, the driver in pole position has come away with the win. Like, can you just comment on, just going a little more detail on what the fans actually saw today was something special?
Yeah, it was definitely mixed. I think you got every condition possible. I think you got cars on many different strategies. I think you this track always plays well, I think, to great overtaking, just with the long straights, great braking zones, but also, I think you've got to give a lot of credit to Firestone too, with the tyre that they bring, the different performance levels between, the primary and the alternate, they kind of cover every basis. So that's, with an IndyCar race, you really never know who's going to win, and that's fun for the fans, it's fun for the drivers. Obviously, you would like a season where you could dominate and run away with it, but that's just not possible. The competition is so tight right now, and the strategy and how they play it over here is it's some days a bit frustrating, but many others it's a lot of fun too. So I think that's why our fan base is getting bigger and the numbers are going in the right direction, and we should be proud of what we got here in the sport.
We'll take our last question for Scott from Bruce.
You were talking about how great it is to see a veteran like Simon get back in the victory lane, but how great is it for the series today to see a new driver like Jack Harvey and other young drivers like that went out there and put on a hell of a show?
Yeah, it's important. I think it's important, very important for the future of the sport. And Jack's done a fantastic job. I think bringing different sponsors to the series as well, and even his owner with Shank. He's a great person, very successful in many other forms of racing, and it's good to see them come over here. But it shows you the ability of any team, with the parts and pieces that everybody has. You can come here and run strong, and if you've got a good driver, you can make it happen. So it's I think that's why we've seen such a big influx from Europe and great drivers that have come through the ranks here in America too. But yes, it's definitely a bright future.
Scott, congratulations. We'll see you in a few days.
Thank you.
We will welcome in our third place finisher, Jack Harvey, driving the number 60 Sirius XM Auto Nation Honda for Meyer Shank Racing. Jack, obviously a great result for you today. Also, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, your first IndyCar race in the wet. How'd you like it?
It was a bit more of a handful than I kind of would have hoped for. I think we looked like we were running pretty good in the dry. Obviously I thought I had the best start I've had in IndyCar too. To be able to split Felix and Scott at the start was pretty solid, and then I think we ran on pace, top 3 in the dry. Car was great. I think Scott was a little quicker than us at the start of the stints. Felt like he came back to us at the end. And then all race you could see a few spots of rain always around, and it's just difficult in that moment. And I'm sure Scott's been in this situation many times. I'm available every weekend that IndyCar's going racing if need be. So for as much as I try and focus on just my driving aspects, we do have those conversations. We'll see what Shimmy and shakes out, but I think for all of us collectively we're 2020 focused. But if the right opportunity came up to add another one in 2019, then certainly I'm game for it.
Thank you. Congrats.
Thank you.
And just to make this super official so Jack can have it in writing later for the transcript, that was a yes, it could happen.
Yeah, I should have.
Another question I probably need to be careful of since he is standing in the back of the room, but it seems that every driver that drives for Mike Shank, whether it be late Justin Wilson or AJ Allmendinger or yourself, they all come away thinking, man, he's a great guy to race for. What is it about Mike Shank that makes him, not only do you guys race for him, you end up becoming friends with him.
Certainly. Stayed at his house before, it's hard to say because he stood right in the room. I'm going to be accused of having some brown on my nose if I say too many nice things. Honestly, Mike was a great guy, and what he instills in himself funnels through the team. So, I remember one of the first tests we went to, he was up in the top of the roof of the trailer trying to help the guys load the car in. And I think when people say you get out what you put in, Mike is a great leader. He leads by example. He sets the tone. I think he holds us all accountable in the right way. That being said, he encourages us all when we need it. And before the weekend started, he's like, we can do it this weekend. And she's like, I just know we can. I'm like, yeah, I think so too. And he's like, no, I really think we can. And the thing that I appreciate about Mike from the very, very first phone call we had way back in, must have been April 2017, is we have a very open and honest relationship. I tell him when things are bothering me, he tells me when things are bothering him, and together we find a great solution. And I absolutely love everybody at his racing team. Everybody at Meyer Shank Racing has really embraced me as what feels like a small team, and I feel like I'm a part of that. I love to come and support the team at the IMSA races too. There's no one else on the grid I'd rather be racing for, and certainly the goal from all of us is to just expand our current program into 2020. And what I said about Mike when I was told that that's who we were going to be racing with in the 500 in 2017 is he's a winner. He wins at pretty much everything he does, and he's competitive, and that's contagious, and you want to be around it. And frankly, you want to win for him. So I'm happy to contribute a trophy to his cabinet, and hope it's the first one of a few.
Any final questions for Jack? Yes, Chris.
You finished second in the Indy Lights Tech Championship 2 years in a row, and then the next year you don't have a ride. How much of a comeback is this for you, knowing that where you came from and where you are now?
It's a bigger one than I would have admitted before I got the podium. It's not easy coming to the track and watching everybody else race when you're sat on the sidelines. That being said, I'm extremely lucky, especially I owe a lot to two people in particular, my manager Bob Perona, Mark Cannon from AutoNation. I think those two guys really saved my career. They both stood with us at a time where I desperately needed somebody. And we worked really hard to try and put the 500 together in 2017, and we did, along with what was then still Michael Shank Racing, and Andretti Autosport. You look back at that moment as a real pivotal step, and one that I needed. And this personally gives me a lot of confidence, because it's been a little while since we were competing, week in, week out. A lot of I haven't gone short of opportunities, which I'm grateful for, but it's being thrown in the deep end all the time is tricky, and you don't always get the results, and you lose a little bit of confidence and whatnot. Where this weekend I knew we were going to be good coming into it. We delivered on that, and I think just for me alone, I feel like this is a big confidence boost. That not arrogantly, but just in a humble way. That I talk about showing it to ourselves, but I just showed myself that I can come and compete at this level. And I'm very lucky with the people I surround myself with at the track and at home. They haven't let me ever lose sight of that and my talent. But sometimes you've got to prove it to yourself. And sat next to a piece of trophy is a nice thing. And third's great, but first probably is even greater. So I think everyone saw how happy we were and how happy we are to finish third. But to win is still the goal. So still a little bit of work left to do.
And we'll take our final question for both games.
Yes, Jack, it looks like earlier that your team as the Allianz Corporation was Schmidt-Peters. Nevertheless, MSR Michael Shank Racing is a one-car team. Is it difficult just to be yourself and not compare any experience or knowledge with a second driver?
I think that's what makes a good team, is that when we get in the engineering room, that we operate two teams as opposed to a three-car effort. James and Marcus are both great teammates to have. They both have a lot of experience in multiple different racing forms. James is a long-term IndyCar race winner and seasoned veteran, and Marcus has been in Formula One for several years. So they bring a lot of experience to the team, a lot of good ideas, and we push and bounce around different ideas. We push each other to be better. Some weekends each of us have just a little bit of edge, but I can tell you that we all work extremely hard to try and be the one who's got the edge. I think what makes a successful team is being competitive with each other, being fair with each other, but also to a lot of a degree being open with each other. What was good, what was bad, what worked, what didn't work, and how collectively we get the best possible results. I think the perfect day for the whole team is if we lock out the podium just with the 5, the 7 and the 60 car, and that's what we're going to keep working hard to try and do.
Jack, congratulations to you and the team. We'll see you in a couple days.
Cheers.
So the second crashed.